All right, so now it's time to look at a video from Kulinski about the Tomi Lahren incident. And we already did another video about another YouTuber and his take on it. So this one will probably be pretty similar, but let's see what happens.
Right-wing darling Tomi Lahren decided to buck Republican orthodoxy on the issue of abortion. Check it out.
I'm going to say something my fellow conservatives and Trump supporters may not like, but I must be true to my beliefs, whatever the party line. So it's time for final thoughts. Pressing for a Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade would be a huge mistake. Yes, the new high court vacancy is a huge opportunity for conservative values and principles. I get it. And I understand the passion behind the pro-life movement. But to use conservatives' newfound power and pull to challenge a decision that, according to a new Quinnipiac poll, most Americans support would be a mistake.
So what? There was a point in time when most people favored slavery.
This president is winning for the American people on the economy, foreign policy, and tax reform. These are areas that benefit all Americans, regardless of religion or social beliefs.
Let me decode that a little bit for you and tell you what she actually means. She's saying, do you hear that whistle in the background? Do you hear it? What's that coming from? That's the gravy train, okay? And it is packed to the seams and loaded to the hilt with all kinds of goodies and treats for the wealthiest Americans. It's got so much in there for these millionaires and billionaires. They're just making a killing on it. So don't you do anything that threatens that. Don't you do anything to rock the boat. So yeah, don't expect us to actually make policy based on what we told you we were going to do for you. No. Look, our job here is to make sure the wealthy have as much money as possible to pamper their every want and whim. So you can have your right to life marches and you can be against abortion or whatever, just don't come to us with it. So if you go out there and you can come up with a new way to pamper the wealthy, then come back to us. Otherwise, go away.
If we continue to focus on these things and immigration, we'll sail into 2020 with all three branches in our control. That's how we get things done for the American people. That's how we win. Let's go after sanctuary cities and push for voter ID laws. We lose when we start tampering with social issues.
So yeah, again, look, overruling Roe versus Wade does nothing for the bank accounts of the Koch brothers. It does nothing for them. So why are we wasting time talking about it? If we're really going to fix America and we're going to figure out where we're going, the biggest priority we need to focus on is getting even more money in the bank accounts of the wealthy. That'll make everything great. Anything else is a distraction. Anything else, not worth the time. So the Koch brothers right now, they're worth a little over 100 million between both of them. Now, if we can get that up to 130, 140 billion, it'll be raining puppy dogs and happy smiles all over.
Voter ID laws. We lose when we start tampering with social issues. Consider this. When Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch got to his confirmation hearings with the Senate Judiciary Committee, he was grilled on the so-called Trump litmus test on abortion. He responded by telling Senator Lindsey Graham he would have walked out the door if Trump had asked him to overturn Roe.
Right, just as almost every other nominee would say the same thing. Look, judges are supposed to hear cases. They don't prejudge a case before it comes to them. So no, they can't tell you ahead of time how they are going to rule because the case isn't before them. Now, if I were a betting man and I had to put money on it, I'd put my money on the side that Neil Gorsuch would vote to overrule Roe.
Conservatives decide to go for the Roe v. Wade jugular, it's unlikely to succeed. Legal tradition makes it harder to overturn a past decision unless there are strong grounds for doing so.
So would it be a strong ground to say that the decision is flat out wrong, that it's a travesty, that it's an abomination to anybody who knows anything about the Constitution? I would say those are grounds to fix this problem.
And a departure from precedent like Roe, which has since been upheld by other cases, is even harder to come by. During his hearing, Justice Gorsuch made a point of noting the decision had already been reaffirmed several times. Do we really want to fight for this? Alienate Democrats, moderates, and libertarians, all to lose in the end anyway?
Tommy, that is not even close to your biggest problem. You want to know what would be a much bigger problem? Is if you flip the pro-life community the bird and tell them to go kick rocks, that you have no interest in doing what you said you would do, and they don't show up to vote. How bad is that going to be?
That's a risk I don't think is worth taking. And I'm saying this as someone who would personally choose life, but also feels it's not the government's place to dictate.
Oh yes, pro-choice cop-out number 6. Okay, yeah, sure, I would choose life, but I still think other people should have the option. I'm not bad. And what do you mean, not the government's place? Okay, so if you're a pro-lifer, okay, then you probably believe that life begins at some point before birth. So you believe that the fetus is alive and a human and therefore worthy of protection by law at some point before it's born. Okay, so every state out there prohibits murder, unjustifiable killing. So if we have a firm conviction that this is a human being, that this is life at this point, how can we not say that the government should protect that as they would protect anybody outside the womb?
This isn't a black and white issue, and I would never judge anyone in that position. I believe the way to encourage someone to choose life is to treat her with compassion, understanding, and love, not government regulation. Because let's be honest, the federal government does few things well, and I believe regulating social issues is an area where it fails.
Well, thank you, Tommy, for coming around to my position. Okay, so unless you were aware, the Supreme Court is part of the federal government. So what we live under now is the Supreme Court, a group of lawyers, dictating to us what our policy has to be on abortion. So if the Supreme Court were to overrule Roe versus Wade, that would in no way make abortion automatically illegal throughout the United States. What would it do? It would allow states to legislate on the issue based on the will of the people that live there, like we do with all sorts of other things. We would be abolishing this federal edict that tells us what our laws have to be and what we have to permit. So yes, because these issues are so divisive and because people have such strong opinions about them, it's hard to have a federal system impose that on the entire nation. It causes problems. Okay? So when you and at your state level can make local decisions about that work for your state, fine. Okay? So we agree that the federal edict needs to go and that this should return to the state.
Fails. Let the churches, the nonprofits, and the community groups step in, not almighty Uncle Sam. But those are my final thoughts. Feel free to disagree. From LA, God bless, and take care.
Damn. Well, take a guess what happened next. It's not good for Tommy. So
Kyle, this is a person who has been on Fox News where they have pro-lifers on all the time, and all that time up until now, she's just sat there, looked pretty and smiled, nodded her head, okay, yes. But in the back of her mind, she was really thinking, I don't give a shit about these pro-lifers. I know you understand this, Kyle. I know you do because I've seen enough of your program to realize that you despise when Democrats cower to Republicans, when they just go along with the Republicans' idea. You don't want Democrats who don't generally support Democratic policies. So whether you're on the right or the left, you have to accept that a key component of the conservative base is the pro-life movement. And it's been that way for a long, long time. So after the years and years and years of work and blood, sweat, and tears, people pouring into the effort to finally make a change on this issue, when we are on the 3-yard line, first and goal, then you want to say, oh, well, Yeah, sorry. This is how far we go. We're not going to do anything else. Yeah, that's going to upset quite a few people.
She got like a 50% dislike rate on this video, at least when it was posted to YouTube. But of course, and I predicted this before even looking at the comments, what's the number one thing going to be? They're going to say, it's murder. It's baby killing. So, let me show you what they said. Somebody says, ugh, no. I'm not going to concede on Roe versus Wade. I was pro-choice because of lacking of information. I'm pro-life because of information. Abortion is murder, period. And somebody else says, murder is not a social issue. Sad to see conservatives fooled by Lahren. She's not a conservative. She celebrates the right to murder unborn babies the exact same way leftists do. She is a disgrace and a fraud. Just stop funding the abortion mills with my tax dollars and I'll be happy. Hey, dude, they don't. There is no federal tax money that goes to abortion.
So are people just now realizing that a lot of people on the pro-life side consider abortion to be murder? I think that's generally been something, we're upfront about. I don't know why that would cause any surprise. Now, as far as paying for abortions, it's a complex issue, but look at it from this perspective. Okay, so let's say you have a member of your family, they're down on their luck, they're addicted to, some bad illegal substance, cocaine, heroin, whatever. They don't have a place to go. You're trying to help them out, okay? They only get like maybe $400 or $500 a month SSI. So this person's asking for money, they need money. And you say, well, look, I'm not going to give you money because I think you're going to go out and buy drugs with it. I don't want to perpetuate that, so I think that would be a mistake. Then they say, okay, all right, well, don't give me the money for the drugs. Give me money for my phone bill. It's like $80 a month. Can you pay that for me? Oh, well, yeah, I'm not buying you drugs, sure. But what does that do? That frees up $80 that the guy is getting for him to then use on drugs. So we assume, say, Planned Parenthood, they operate clinics, right? Okay, so we can assume that they're probably going to pay their electric bill or their, taxes associated with being there. Now, if they can get federal money and allocate that towards an expense, like, okay, we're going to put that money into employee benefits, we'll put that money into, whatever. So instead of having to use money from their general fund to pay the electric bill or something like that, they can use the government grants for that, and then that frees up more money for them to be able to perform abortions and do things like that. So to say that no tax dollars go to abortion is kind of a shell game.
It's the Hyde Amendment. These guys know nothing about politics. I always find it so amazing how massively ignorant people will be on basic political facts, but they feel the need to have their opinion heard, even though on some level they must know they know absolutely nothing. Like, that's already the case. Your tax money's not going to abortion, dipshit. God damn it, Pete. That's so stupid.
Yeah, I know. They use the tax dollars for other things, and then that frees up more money for them to do abortions with.
That's so stupid. And then finally somebody says, no, Tommy, it's a mistake to keep killing children. Wake up, girl. So, listen, what she tries to do here is make an argument that's a strategy argument more than anything. Well, she's walking on eggshells, and she's like, hey, listen, I kind of agree with you. I would choose life, but it's not really the government's place, and shouldn't we really focus on the things that will allow conservatives to win? And this is not an issue that will allow conservatives to win, so why don't you focus on the areas that we're doing great, like the economy, foreign policy, tax reform, and immigration? Okay, the economy, no, wages are stagnant, and they've been since the 1980s. The unemployment rate is low, but the unemployment rate is not a good indicator. And the stock market is high, but the stock market is not a good indicator. People are struggling. half of workers make $30,000 a year or less. You're not doing good on the economy. You're not doing good on foreign policy. There's no coherent foreign policy.
They're not talking about your average American, Kyle. That's not what they mean when they say the economy's doing great. You see, they, for the most part, don't care about, the lower half of the economic ladder. It's unimportant to them. So when they say things are doing good and they point that out, what they really mean is things for the ultra rich are doing well. They're doing good. They're making more money. Their bank accounts are growing. The rest of you guys, whatever.
My whole response to that point about, it's baby killing or it's murder has always been that it's just simply not that. You could try to lie and argue it's that, but it's not true because there's a reason why we have different terminologies. There's a reason why we use the term zygote and gamete and pre-gestation fetus and pre-viability. And there's a reason why, because it is fundamentally a different thing categorically than actual murder of like a baby being born. And by the way, again, I get the concern over like, oh my God, late-term abortion does seem pretty barbaric. And I understand people's aversion to that, which is why I'm okay with states regulating past that line of nervous system creation or fetal viability. But I find it weird that Tomi Lahren like dodges the main point from the right as opposed to addressing it. Like you would think if she's going to take this position, she would slap down that idea first of like, okay, first of all, let me address the fact that you're going to say it's baby killing. It's not, and here's why.
Right, and that's because there's never been a good, coherent argument to differentiate abortion from murder or baby killing. Okay, you can choose to call it something else, but it doesn't change the fundamental act of what it is. And we can arbitrarily give different terms to, a human in utero to delineate where it falls on its gestation path. But those are subjective things that we're just imposing on, the circumstances. It's not, something that's intrinsic. Because at the core level, we were all once a zygote. We all started that way. So if you trace your existence all the way back, that's where it's going to start. Now, what point when you go back would you say, okay, that's no longer me? This is me over here, but before this time, I wasn't me. I was just a blob of cells. Not really.